Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to some more Warforge. And today I am bringing you the Green Menace himself, the Warboss Gordrang. Been playing a lot of Sisters here at the end of the season just to keep grinding, and Dark Angels. It's no secret that they are all at the top of the ladder. In particular, Junith, Erika, Azriel, I think Asmodai actually might be edging out Belial the more I've played against it and the more I've been tinkering with it. But regardless, those two factions have really dominated, and I think the deck that has showed up more and more over the last week or so is Gordrang, and I had put that in my snapshot video, my Legendary Ranked update, so feel free to check that out if you haven't. And honestly, it's more of a Dark Angels episode than anything, so if you really just want to take a look at some builds, it's a great video for that too. But to focus on what we're recording today, I really just wanted to highlight this completely all-out aggro Gordrang list. And I think if Sisters see some nerfs, and if Dark Angels potentially also receive that, or who knows how they're going to address balance, in the new season, I think this deck is already performing fairly well into the meta. And I really didn't believe it when I first played against it a handful of times, but then I realized that this deck actually is potentially the best aggro deck right now. So let's just get into the build and we'll talk about why you can just Hulk smash your way to 3100 here with not too much problem, I will say. So let's take a look. Okay, first things first, as always, especially for new players, although Gordrang's been around for quite a while now, he has gone through several changes. Gordrang used to stun after getting +4, and being able to hit the enemy Warlord, being able to also, through Pyromaniaks, stun multiple targets, because if you were hitting with that one target, the stun was applying with the blast, which has since been taken out of the game, unfortunately for Gordrang. But now, instead of stunning and sort of controlling the board that way, he heals every time he hits. And so what this has really allowed this deck to do is essentially ignore anything that's hitting the board. And part of why you can do that is part and parcel of why the orcs are so good, which is that their removal and flankers, when they come down on curve, do exactly what they need to do. They're trading 1-for-1 at minimum, and often are going to be a 2-for-1. And although Backlash can sometimes get you a little unlucky taking damage from, we'll talk a little bit about that in some of the games, Huge Choppa, now the fact that it heals and the tier 1 deck, Junith, wants to go wide, and this allows you to clear Sisters very easily, it's no surprise why Gordrang is seeing a bit of a resurgence. He's also fairly good, I would say, into as Asmodai in particular, but I also feel it can go kind of 50-50 in the Azriel matchup. I still think Azriel, after playing with and against it quite a bit, is probably slightly favored, because there is going to come a time where you can maybe stick multiple threats per turn, and keep your health high if you're teching, things like Apothecary, or using your the rock card, for healing, which can be quite strong when a deck just needs that healing to keep up. And then the other last reason we'll talk about this in the list is that Gordrang can just expend his health over and over and over again to hit, and then has access to some of the biggest healing spells in the game. And so it's no secret why this could work, but for a while I'd always felt, you kind of want to build a mid-range, you kind of want to build him control. I don't really know that you can go full aggro and be successful with this. But I was wrong. I had an 11-0 run on one of my streams recently, so feel free to check that out. And we're going to take a look at 4 games today. I think we did fairly well in all of them, but they were very, very close. So you have to play this deck super, super tight into the high, the top tier meta decks. But the games are quick. They're fairly satisfying, I would say. And if you're an aggro player at heart and you've got access to most of these cards, I really think you can do well. So let's get into the build. Okay, so what does Hulk Smash mean? what does it bring into the table here? And so we'll just kick it off with the Attack Squig. Now, on the surface, this card looks like it's like kind of whatever, right? 1 damage ping, stun. Sometimes what I'll use this, let's say against a librarian, right, to ping stun the shield off, and then, kind of cancels out the card. Maybe I can just clear it. What Attack Squig I feel allows you to do more than anything with this build is stun a problematic unit that you can't remove, right? Or that you need to be pressing damage on face, and you cannot afford to pivot and try and clear a unit. Sometimes you have to, right? Like, there is no choice. But really, you're trying to get your opponent down to the 10 to 12 life range as soon as possible, so that you can kill them outright with Proper Killy, or in combination with some burn, Warbiker, or Makari. And Attack Squig allows you to very cheaply basically CC, crowd control a unit. I realize not everyone may know my World of Warcraft magic terminology. So you stun that, you don't have to worry about it for a turn. Sometimes you can point it at face. I think I had a game recently where I just played 2 of these, hit with my leader, and had something else, and that was enough for lethal. So Attack Squig honestly does quite a lot of work in this build, just being a cheap way to keep on hitting face. Grot Bomb, I've actually just liked it as a one-of. Sometimes you take a 50-50, you kill a stealth unit, great. Sometimes on the second turn, it's just a lightning bolt, 3 damage to the face for 1, and you hit them, right? And the more you can create this life gap means that your opponent has to play more and more defensively, and then you're also healing. Like, your life is basically expendable in a way that most factions' life is not. So even with Asmodai being able to heal quite a lot if you build him the right way, it's still really tough for them to keep up pressure on you. And so they're always responding to your pressure. And I actually think the one of Grot Bomb has been quite helpful. Makari, nothing to say here. This is a staple legendary in every single Ork deck. It just allows you to hit hard, and then it comes back to your hand, and it keeps coming back down. It is the most annoying legendary. Bomb Squig, I go back and forth on if this is necessary. Honestly, the best thing you get to do with this is flank this off of an Ork Nob, and be able to hit something for 2 and guarantee the explosive. Sometimes you can put it on a board where it's kind of problematic, and your opponents basically, have to sacrifice their units, because otherwise they're going to get wiped by the Bomb Squig. You could change this to something else, but so far it's felt fine. It's felt fine enough, and so I've just played the 1 copy. Prophet of Waaagh, honestly, I think this is a great card for this particular build. You are playing a lot of stratagems. You do really need to make sure that you hit your healing at certain points, or in the case of Dark Angels, hitting your Will of Gork. I think that's one of the biggest things that Orcs have going for them into Dark Angels, is that, especially with Azriel, he's going to run out of cards, and if you can just bait people into Will of Gorks, it can be quite hard for them to recover. And so against higher tier players, it's not going to happen as much because they're going to play around it. But Prophet of Waaagh basically just, toolbox is what you need in the moment. And I think gets a lot of value. 1 Gretchin Mob, I think sometimes this allows you to, ignore some hits from some big units if they don't have AoE clear. Sometimes you get to play this the turn before, hope that 1 or 2 stick around, and then get to play your Pyromaniaks, where essentially they're getting to hit the Warlord for 2 if they're able to hit another unit. And Pyromaniaks is just excellent. This allows you to help clear with your Warlord in tandem with Proper Killy, kind of jumping into these cards already. This allows you to hit twice, so then you're essentially having Blast 4 to apply to their units. Again, it's all designed around hitting face. And so anything that sort of synergizes with hitting face, Proper Killy, Pyromaniaks, it allows you to just keep applying that damage pressure to the Warlord, and you're also somewhat controlling the board with a card like Pyromaniacs. So yes, there's a lot of legendaries in here. I don't think you have to play all of these if you're running on a budget, but this is the build that I've arrived at. Warbiker, going to be in pretty much every Ork deck as well. In our deck, it is truly just 4 damage to the face. That's what it should be every time, like a Lava Axe, for you red magic players. It has to be like incredibly necessary for you to clear a unit for the Warbiker to be necessary, to not go face. And I actually have a game in here where I kind of made a mistake and should have used a Warbiker to hit face. I chose not to, but I think it obviously would have been a better play. We'll get into that later. Irongob, just 5 heal and concussive. There are just so many board states This is true of when I used to play Gruk all the time, where basically your opponent doesn't want to play into your answers, or some of the flankers that you can do, or they're trying to set something up, and so they have like a low tempo turn against you. This is perfect, right? Because you're going to trade 4 to 6 health within the first 3 turns, right? So or pretty much exactly that, 2 each turn. And so Irongob just picks your health back up, right? Again, our health is really expendable because we have stuff like this. And the concussive makes a difference, right? Again, this is allowing you to kind of CC by yourself. If you do this when they have 1 or 2 units on the board, and then we're getting closer and closer to Will of Gork, they're then maybe going to send those in. Even if they get stunned, you can potentially clear them otherwise and save your Will of Gork. So, again, just all the healing makes a huge difference. Another all-star card, I will say, into the mid-range Dark Angels builds, No Mukkin About. This thing just always pulls its weight. It's not hard to set up. They're not going to have a lot of units on the board a lot of the time. If they do, then you're healing, right? And so No Mukkin About is just the perfect removal. Ork Nob, really nice combo is Ork Nob into the Gretchin Mobs, Ork Nob into the Squig. And sometimes you just need to plop something down, clear a unit, and keep hitting their face. And Ork Nob is perfect for that. So, Skorcha Assault, just again, basically this is a burn spell, and you'll see me use this pretty aggressively in one of the games, one of the battle logs that we look at, because I just know I want to chuck out everything on curve out of my hand just to reduce their life total, and I don't want to play to like getting maximum value all of the time. So paying 4 for 2 damage potentially is not great, but if it's 3 or 4, it's decent, and if it's getting me closer and closer to that 10 to 12 life point, break point for Gordrang, and this is a tool that helps you control the board while you can keep hitting face. So it's just perfect. I've liked the one Snazzwagon. I don't know that everyone would play this, but I think it matches up well into some of the Dark Angels. And for the late game, you can get the 2-for-1, or if you've got the vehicle stratagem defense that we'll see, you can play 2 of these on 8 energy, because the first one costs 3, and then the second one costs 5. So I still think 1 copy is good. Boss Nob, I think you could play 2 copies of it. I like it in certain spots, but sometimes it's just stat-wise, not the most helpful unit. So I started trying out, I'll skip over Skarboy for a second, Mekboy Gazmek, because he's a little beefier in the kind of attack department, slightly more than the other guy. 6 health, and there's a little bit of upside when you trigger mob for some of your vehicles, and you can get some of these high roll lines. I don't know if this guy's necessarily worth it. I just kept feeling like I needed another proactive 5-drop that wasn't Grizzled Skarboy, which you're not going to always want to play out on 5. Sometimes you want to keep the tempo up and play this later or set this up in a better way. But Grizzled Skarboy, again, it's only +1 health for each damaged enemy, because it did get that nerf, I guess, like 2 or 3 months ago. But the armor 1, again, you're just able to trade then afterward 4 for 1 on a normal Warlord, and that it's just a lot of damage. So yeah, I think you could easily play like 2 of the Boss Nob instead of 2, 1 Boss Nob, 1 Mekboy, but I've kind of just liked trying the 1-and-1, and honestly it's felt fine to me. 2 Squigbuggy, this is your flank unit. We don't care if this blows up most of the time after killing something. You're still getting that Bomb Squig. It's still getting that chip damage on the enemy Warlord. And that's exactly what you need it to do. And the unstable, sometimes it screws you over, but again, because your health is more expendable, because you've got that healing, Squigbuggy just does so much work. This is what I want to see against Dark Angels in particular, but also Junith. So I think it works out really, really well. 2 Veteran Stormboy, I still think that this guy's an all-star flanker. Sometimes you get to play it and it sticks around. I just think most of the time you want to be hitting, clearing, hitting, clearing, hitting, clearing. And so Veteran Stormboy on 6 energy, for the most part, is going to allow you to clear something and keep moving. So, and then 2 Will of Gork. This card is still very necessary. You will get some games you can end before Will of Gork's, on the board. But the reason Will of Gork is so powerful in this deck, right, is because you can set it up into they have to rebuild their board, and then you just kill them, right? Or you're able to Will of Gork, then set some stuff up, or on turn 10, Will of Gork their whole board, hit them in the face again after you've healed from whatever units they have on the board, and the tempo is fully in your hands. So it is still one of the most powerful spells in the game, and I think you're going to play 2 copies of it. So that is the deck. That is Hulk Smash, and what I've been currently running on ladder and doing extremely positively with. I'll get a loss here and there, but it's not hard to go very, very, have a very high win rate with this deck. And let me know in the comments if you think there's other stuff we could be playing. I think at the 7-drop slot, I've thought about, the 7-drop legendary. I've also thought about Commando, but I just find on 7, I'm often not able to play a 7-drop. I'm often comboing like, a 4-drop plus my ability, a 5-drop plus my ability, stuff like that. And so I really feel like there's really only room in my build for a proactive 5. So I kind of shaved out all of that stuff. But that's enough talking for me. Let's get into the games. All right. First game, it's a Russian Soul, who I haven't seen in quite a long time, and rocking the Nemesaur. This game was a bit of a toughie, as you'll be able to see why. So in some matchups, you want the Proper Killy because you want to guarantee that you can close things out. Maybe you want the Gretchin Mob, but in this matchup, I really just want flankers. I want Skorcha Assaults to mop up those little Necron boys, and probably some healing or Makari if I can ever get it. So the hand actually pans out really well for us. We pick up Skorcha Assault, and we pick up Skarboy. We take the Extractor rig always because 2 Grots doesn't really do anything, and this allows you to play up the curve on a vehicle, and that tends to be pretty good. So yeah, first couple turns in this matchup I think are pretty scripted, and I haven't seen a ton of Nemesaur, but this game was definitely pretty tough, and I think maybe made some mistakes in here. We'll see. Been playing quite a bit on the ladder, so just wanted to pick out the games I remember being very close. So yeah. Gonna keep deploying threats. We pick up Pyromaniaks too. Like, the draw that we had in this game was really, really good. But for now, really all I can do until maybe Skorcha Assault lands, or I play out the Ork Nob, is just gain 1 health. So I'm only taking 1 each turn to clear their little, their Necron warriors. So we're gonna be down on life, and here, I think it's close. Like, I can run out Skorcha Assault. It will hit Remnants, so I've got not a great chance of hitting everything I want. And so here, I just take the +5 health. I'm not going to play anything into the sniper unit and say, okay, here we go. But it's a pretty great Technomancer turn for Russian Soul, and is able to pick up, some good defense here. So we essentially, we're able to keep our life in a decent spot and stun 2 things, which gives us time. We're able to use huge Choppa to heal here for 4, which again is not irrelevant. And here I just know, like, okay, I'm in a bad spot. I know I need to just live till Will of Gork. And I think here was just a weird mistake. I don't think I realized I drew Will of Gork initially. I probably could have taken something else there. But I did know that 1 Will of Gork probably wouldn't be enough because of all the reanimating. So my job here in this position, and this is not a good spot to be in as Gordrang, is just to live. Live till 8 and try and reset the game after that. So I'm going to be spamming my ability just to heal as much as I can, and then see if I can clean up any other units. So I go for the Skorcha Assault here. I could have gone for Squigbuggy. I kind of just say to myself, like, I need to get lucky in this game, and I really need Squigbuggy to clear, a different problematic unit later. And I just need to get to 8 energy without being dead. that's my job. So they have the Resurrection Orb, which is just really backbreaking. So all of our progress that we made last turn is gone. And now we are firmly up against it. And so I know that I'm basically, potentially dead. And so just got to heal as much as I can and hope that gets us through. So we're going to heal there. And we're going to Skarboy. Only got 1 health, but we get the armor. Take out that thing so it can't Well, I guess taking it out doesn't really do much. Yeah, so they're going to hit us with everything they have this turn, obviously, because they know Will of Gork is potentially coming as well. So Russian Soul playing this very well. And that's what you have to do against orcs. Like, you definitely, especially if you're in the driver's seat, you can't play conservatively against this deck. You need to be, like, pressuring me. And this is, like, the perfect setup, right? Because I can Will of Gork everything, sure, but the remnants are going to stick around because it's on my turn, right? And then I have to kill the guy that creates an orb. But they're going to get the orb either way, right? And so they're going to be able to pick up their board again. So it actually turns out very important that we have the back-to-back Will of Gorks. And so even though I was kind of questioning that decision from that early standpoint, I think that probably in the moment that was the correct play. Because that's the only thing that's going to get me out of this. And so here, I'm going to go down to 7. I have to Will of Gork again. There's nothing else to do. And then after that, it's all just whatever I can get going. So that's second Will of Gork. And then I choose to stun one of the remnants to kill it, so that they can't have a full Technomancer turn. Then I take out the sniper. So I think it's just the best one that they have to reanimate is the 2-drop, which is fine. And so they do get some reanimation here, so I'm glad I used that Squig to take out one more body. And, you know, Russian Soul just keeps chugging along here, throwing out, you know, a problematic board. But we're in a better place, right? We've got ways to respond. We're now in overtime. We've got ways, obviously we're going to gain this 4 life as soon as we can. And we're just going to start chugging along. And here I just say, you know what, I think, you know, one of the better ways to do this is through that with Pyromaniaks. There's an argument that I could have used Squigbuggy, actually, and just done... I wouldn't have had Pyromaniaks, but this ends up being okay in terms of clear. It's not great. Having the Squigbuggy with flank actually might have just been better. So, I think that was a bit of a misplay. Yeah, again, pretty problematic board. I will say, though, I think Russian Soul made a mistake here. So it just goes face on me. I know he's trying to close the game out, but Ork Nob does allow for some of our really good units to have flank. In this scenario, it's Squigbuggy. So we're actually able to get there, which is pretty crazy. So we go up to 9, we heal. Player Squigbuggy. So we have to use these flankers to clear. Then I could use Bomb Squig. Blow up. Rolled a 3, which I think made this lethal. And even though my Ork Nob is about to die, he takes 0 damage, thankfully. And we've got 10 plus 4, which is 14 damage. So we actually managed to get there. And honestly, I don't know if we could have gotten there if we didn't get that proc off of the Squig. So whether we played Squigbuggy last turn or this turn, I think it might have been better last turn. That's how you can kill someone, you know, seemingly out of nowhere. So let's take another look at a different and also close game. All right. Playing against Warshaper here. And we're playing against a very good player as well. I think the #1 Tau player. And so I basically say to myself, okay, really all I want is, you know, there's an argument I could have kept Snazzwagon, just a flank unit, but Bomb Squig, it's not really going to cut it. And Attack Squig, I don't think I really need. I just want to get some healing, maybe some board control. And I choose to take Solar Eclipse here, which... I mean, they're going to be deploying more units than I am. So there's an argument, I think, for the, like, electrical storm or whatever it's called, the radiation storm. But I chose to take this because we do have so many stratagems in our list that we're, like, discounting them just allows us to be a little bit more, you know, energy efficient every turn. So Lizard King Edge, very, very good Tau player, has been playing Warshaper, I think, since like day one it was out. But I think Gordrang has a bit of the advantage here. We just get to set the pace of the matchup. And, sorry, I guess someone subs while we're doing the video. Okay. So, yes, so this is I like this play. And I didn't really know what Lizard King was running for this season. But yeah, basically just putting up a wall for us. But thankfully, we've got the Skorcha Assault, and it does allow us to kind of keep moving forward. Doesn't clear the drone here. And I do choose to hit the drone because I'm like, I definitely want this off the board. I don't want that getting free value. So I take 2. And I really love the way that Lizard King plays this. I imagine he's played this matchup quite a lot. So nice 4-drop there. And cashes in, right? And it's just like, yeah, I need to cash this in. Obviously, I can't protect this. You know, like, if he had thrown down something else to try and protect it, that could have been a play. But I like that he's just committed to, like, yep, cash it in for 4 damage, get it off the board. Like, it's not going to survive. So profit here, I just go for and say, let me get Proper Killy. All I got to do is get them in the 10 range. We've got a Warbiker. So here, I hit them for 4. And then with Warbiker, they're going to go right down to 10. And it's 5 energy. And we've got Warshaper at 10 health, right? That's why I think this matchup is also pretty tough. But this is a great line that Lizard King takes. Because having played this with and against Gordrang so often, I bet that he knows that if he hits me here, right, he'll get a good trade, right, on the Warlord. But he will go down to, he'll take 2 down to 9 and go back up to 10. 10 is the magic number, right? Because 10 is what I can kill someone with, Proper Killy and my ability. And so Lizard King plays this perfectly and just says, you know what? I'm going to stealth this guy. I'm going to heal myself up to 11. Gets the free Pulse Fire Onslaught, which is pretty scary, and chooses not to attack. So take the, you know, the tips, as I always say, from the greats, because that is exactly how they needed to play it. But it ends up being a decent turn for me. I think about Proper Killing, but I'm like, no, like there's no reason for me to chip my health lower. And unfortunately, Lizard King just has a flanker, can't pressure me to lethal, and unfortunately can't go above 10 health. And so that's just going to be GG because we've got the Proper Killy. But even though this was such a quick game, Lizard King, you know, played this exactly how he should played to you know, living through our lethal combo. But because I had the armor and he couldn't get lethal through and didn't have a threat that really added to damage on me, even though the Pulse Fire Onslaught was kind of scary, we end up getting the win. Okay. We get into a game against Dankler, who I do not see very often, and I just assume I'm going to be running into some pretty beefy tanks. But we've got a pretty good setup for that. We've got the Will of Gork, we've got the No Mukkin About. And here I just say, sure, I could keep Gazmek, but honestly, I don't know if this is going to be what we need to play on curve. I think actually the game's going to go longer. Skarboy is likely what we're going to be doing. And then Ork Nob is always good. So we draw a Squig, and we draw Will of Gork, which pretty happy to see, because I know I'm going to need Will of Gork in this matchup. Because Dankler can just heal for 2. So he's essentially only taking 2 in these early turns when I hit, which is not bad. I really haven't played this matchup quite a lot. But as you can see, especially the aggro v aggro matchups, they can get pretty close. And I guess Veers didn't really have anything else to play here. I don't think I would, almost in most scenarios, play a Minka by itself. It's almost always better just to hold it in your hand. Like, I think maybe just pass the turn, heal yourself, because you get so much value out of Minka, right? So you could have played Minka plus that this turn instead of 2 Ratlins. Like, I don't know. Could have been, I don't know what's in their hand, obviously, but just looking at the game again, it's kind of a weird play. So here, just kind of a perfect Skorcha Assault, right? Just to, not that these Ratlins really do anything because we don't have a board, but allows us to clear out both of them, And although we are slightly behind on life, we're just going to keep, humming along here. And this is a great play. Able to get the Sergeant out. I think this is a really nice addition to the decks that I think Barrick had really worked on. Just a great turn, right? Put out 2 bodies, refill the duty on Dankler. Not bad. So here I opt for a utility Proper Killy. I don't love doing that, I gotta say, but I didn't really feel like playing, because we weren't able to play Ork Nob and that, I would have had to play out a Skarboy. But the thing is, if I fall behind on bodies on the board, it's going to be really tough for me to get my No Mukkin Abouts off and to utilize my flankers because I'll have other annoying, little Vanguard in the way. And Vanguard shuts down Gordrang pretty hard. And I'm just grateful that this is what they have to do on 6 energy. So that's pretty lucky for us. This is just a really clean Squigbuggy. We can even hold on to this extractor rig even longer. There's an argument that I could have used it that turn. But I'm basically saying to myself, if I don't need to use it this turn, maybe I'll use it later. And I think I end up making a misplay with it later. If I remember correctly. So really good response here with the Psyker. And then those are going to blow up. We're going to take some chip damage here. So we're not in a good spot, quite frankly. And heals themselves back up, which I'm kind of happy to see because I want to clear this Psyker out. And so I'm going to take my time to armor up here, gain 2 life, gain another life off of huge Choppa. And these little life accumulations make a difference, especially when you think about how close the life total can be in some of these games. And it's going to get very close in this game when I make what I think is a misplay. And so, unfortunately, they're kind of drawing the infantry half of their deck. Because, if they had tanks or, any other, I don't know, 7-drop tank, the Lehman Russ, it would be pretty obnoxious for us to deal with. But they don't have it here. So we're just going to run out our Stormboy, who gets to clear a unit and live to tell the tale. Don't forget to heal, even though you're potentially clearing things. I hit there, and I'm going to hit face here. Now, I could clear the other unit trying to protect my Veteran Stormboy, but that to me is a waste of a hit, right? I'm hitting 4 for 1 on the Warlord. And there is the Regal Dorn tank, and they're able to clear here, and I think I just make a huge misplay here. There was just an energy miscalculation. I was trying to do too much at the same time. I don't want a Will of Gork here, right? Because I haven't seen Siege Warfare, and there's not enough of a board for me to justify. And I don't have a No Mukkin About. So what I need to do here is exactly what I'm doing, except instead of Grot Bomb, I need to make the Warbiker sacrifice itself. And that way I would have cleared this, and that would be pretty good. So I should have just gone Extractor Rig into the Warbiker. And instead I'm like, oh, you know what? I'll take the 50-50 on the Grot Bomb. And then I miss it. So I think not worth taking the chance here, right? Because I'm not clearing this. So minimum I'm going to take here is 10 total, which is obviously horrendous. But thankfully Dankler is within kill range if I hit a Proper Killy, right? So, but he goes for the damage. Makes a lot of sense. Drops the Siege Warfare. But I have the perfect response here, right? Because I get to heal with with my ability, my huge Choppa, and then I get to Will of Gork, and then I have a second Will of Gork here. So, into this sort of matchup, we kind of have the exact right formula, right? Because I'm going to hit them down to 6 here, and pretty much anything in my deck is going to help me get to lethal. And there's not a lot that would kill me from this position. It would have to be Psyker plus something. I'm not sure. Bombast, probably. So here, I just have lethal between my ability and the Warbiker for 6 damage. And we don't even need the No Mukkin About that we drew. So, again, these games are very close, right? But we just have our opponent under pressure the entire game. And then when they start having to play to the board, then we basically just punish them for doing that, for playing the game. So, all right, let's get into our last one, which is definitely the spiciest game. Okay, last but certainly not least, I recognize a familiar face here, which is Junith on his signature Keltalk, which I think he has just been playing for quite a while. I feel like I always see him with this. So Gretchin Mob, not going to be great at Eldritch Storm. Proper Killy, I know I want. Irongob and Squigbuggy, all pretty solid cards in this matchup. So pretty good hand for us. We get an Attack Squig. And I thought we'd actually have some banter here, but it was a very respectful match. And so basically I know that I'm going to have to put out as much pressure before Reclaim the Stars comes out, but hopefully, and we draw it there, Will of Gork. If there's anything I could sell you on throughout these games is that Will of Gork is still a very powerful card, and you can put 2 copies of it in your deck. So good early turn from Junith. I'm not going to play anything, obviously, into the sniper, but he can cash it in for 3 damage and a stone. It's kind of tempting to use Pyromaniaks here, but we could just get so much more mileage out of that card than just a 1-for-1. So, and it doesn't feel great to leave an energy on the board any turn. Like, I really want to maximize, but with this deck, you don't really have to a lot of the time. So they're going to get their stone. They're working their way towards Reclaim. And here it's just a really nice turn 4 Squigbuggy to clear out the Warlock. So that's what we're going to do. And here I choose between killing the stone and hitting face. And I think you're just hitting face most of the time. Like, he's going to get stones. He's going to reclaim the stars. Like, you can't really stop Keltalk from doing that. So I just choose to just keep hitting face pretty much always. So here, going to go for the attack of the Bomb Squig, getting the 50-50 that the other one is going to die. But of course, I assume they have another flanker to clean things up. And the Banshee will do it. We're going to take a little bit of chip damage here as well. And, right, I just go for the Attack Squig, which clears. And your Attack Squig's not always going to actually take a unit off the board, so we take that opportunity. Again, we're going to take the opportunity on the downtime on this turn to heal, go up to 30. Right, so an Eldar can do some pretty massive swings in damage. For obviously the 8 energy legendary, which I always forget the name of, but also Eldritch Storm, and just like if a plane, a Raven, whatever, hits the board and I don't have something to deal with it. So, yeah. So here, I'm just going to combine Proper Killy plus Pyromaniaks to have a nice turn. Because we're on 6 energy and it kind of just feels like a good timing. I want to use Huge Choppa most of the time, but if I let that unit sit on the board, they're going to get bonus Shuriken to any vehicles that they play. And that's pretty bad. And so Junith has the +4 health, which is nice. The camo doesn't really matter for this matchup so much. And actually basically evens up the life total, which is not good for us. Because we basically have a do-nothing turn. So here is where I make a decision that I'm not sure everyone would make. I go for the Grot Bomb, which I know is going to hit for 3. And I play out the Skorcha Assault here to burn them down. Because I'm like, I'm not going to have time to play this Skorcha Assault. I'm probably going to have to Will of Gork the Reclaim the Stars that's coming in the next turn or 2. I'm going to have to use No Mukkin About, my ability to try and close things out. And so, let me know in the comments what you think of that play. But basically just say, I've got to use my energy while I have it. So here, I think Junith plays this well. I don't know how many other units he could have played, but playing these 2 is nice. It does mean that we can make good use of No Mukkin About. Like, there's an argument could have played a 3rd to try and play around that. But here, we're able to start setting up to try and close out the game while also holding Will of Gork for when we absolutely need it. Which is something you have to know how to do as an Ork player. So, I'm going to use No Mukkin About. We know it's going to hit. Yes, they get the stones. We're not hitting face, unfortunately. But now we've also got Makari, which means that they're usually going to have to trade a health or something. We've seen a couple of stuns. So, this is the second Banshee. We've seen one Banshee mask. So, there's really only one other stun besides Urella, like the legendary, that would stun us. So, we're hampered, but we're certainly not out of this game in any way. So, and I think it's probably playing this conservatively, which I think is probably correct. Not playing out too many units at the same time. We get to heal for 2, which is nice. And even though I'd love to get the double value off the Snazzwagon, I just have to play it here. And I'm going to put Makari in between to buffer the backlash damage, which is a good technique to use on your Squigbuggies and your Snazzwagons. Anything that has backlash, you can put Makari in between to make sure that damage splashes on him and not on you. And that matters in these very aggressive, life races in the game. So here, is going to get 1,000,000 stones off of the 6-drop. But just kind of happy to see, not so many threats on the board. So probably has some like snipers in hand or flankers, that can't really get too much value. There's the Shroud Rudder, which makes sense. That's a nice clear for them. We're going to take some damage potentially from the backlash. Thankfully we rolled a 1, which is good. And so here's where Attack Squig is basically a removal spell. All right, so I need to hit them. Again, I'm always thinking I need to get you in range of Proper Killy. And now Proper Killy's range is 12. So we're actually 2 damage over, which is perfect. We're going to use Attack Squig to stun there. And I think it probably was better to play Gretchin Mob here, because that's more annoying, obviously, for the sniper. But I choose to play a Gazmek because I'm like, okay, maybe they'll have to deploy another, flyer, or maybe they'll actually hit it with their face. That would be kind of crazy. So we see the Eldritch Storm, which would have definitely guaranteed killed the Gretchin Mob. So we end up not really making the better choice necessarily, but yeah. So, but it is hanging in there, and this is where I know I have to Will of Gork, right? They've got a Vanguard unit. I can't just sit around, but I can heal for 4. Right, and then Will of Gork, and then play my Makari, hit them for 5. And so this is where Will of Gork plus your ability, it's so powerful, right? Because you just wipe the board, and then I get to hit them for 5, and there's nothing they can do about it, right? And I'm at 21 from all the healing, so still at a very, very healthy life total, and Junith is firmly in trouble at this point. But 12 energy, late game, Keltalk, it's still scary. So here they just need to come up with some sort of Vanguard unit. They've got it in the Vengeful Wraithblade. And so all I'm thinking about is how do I clear that Wraithblade? Because I need to clear it. And I like this play too, because playing out the Wraith Fighter just allows for them to try and turn the tide damage-wise. So here, I'm just hoping for damage, and I hit double Skarboy. So I just have to fully commit to taking this Wraithblade off the board and have enough health to not die, hopefully. So we're going to Skarboy, get the triple heal there, so we get +3 health and an armor. And just hope that Junith can produce some sort of lethal here. And let me tell you, as soon as I saw that attack, I was like, oh, I'm dead. There's no way. So, just let this play out. There's the Wailing Doom for 7. And so, really, I think all they need... I'm thinking in my head at this point, I'm like, do they have enough to burn me out? It would have to be like, Banshee's Mask plus attack is not enough, because that's only 4. It would have to be, yeah, Eldritch Storm plus like basically just double high roll Eldritch Storm, and it's not enough. Which means that I go to 1, and then he goes to 3, and I get to heal myself up to 2, and only take 1 on the trade. So that is the game. So freaking close. What a match. All right, folks, that is what I got for you today, bringing you the Hulk Smash Warboss Gordrang list that I have just absolutely loved. It's quick games. You do have to play really, really tight. You got to know how these matchups are going to work out, what threats you need to take care of. I lost to a Junith earlier because I think I made some mistakes here and there, even though this deck is pretty solid into Junith. So you can certainly lose with this list into the top tier decks. They always are going to be putting out some of the best pressure and threats. But this deck is honestly a dark horse for top of tier 2 for me right now. And maybe not a dark horse. Maybe this guy is the top of tier 2 right now. Because I was playing some Jain Zar, I was playing some of the other builds that I typically like for tier 2, and just feeling like they're not quite cutting it. But this deck feels like it does. And I think into Dark Angels in particular, because Will of Gork can be so punishing against them, a little less punishing for Sisters. And No Mukkin About's much better against Dark Angels too. I think this is a deck that is going to stick around. So if you've been kind of struggling, or you don't have Sisters or Dark Angels and you've got access to the Orcs, I would really encourage you to give this a shot. It is going to take a bit if you're new to like playing super hyper aggro, to make sure that you're not throwing away games, because you need the exact numbers to line up. But if you love aggro deck from any sort of card game, this is the aggro deck to be playing right now. Move over, Titus. So sorry, my man. I love you, but this is where it's at. So thanks so much as always. And feel free to drop a subscribe if you like the video. If you stuck around for this long, I appreciate it as always. And I will catch you guys next time.